Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very senior corporate leader, a well recognized coach from Singapore, Brenda Bentz. Brenda, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh. So nice to connect with you. I really look forward to our conversation.
Thank you. Brenda is ranked number 3 executive coach globally. She's a billion-dollar C-suite coach. She's also an author of several award-winning corporate and leadership branding books. So, Brenda, my first question, you've had a very successful corporate career managing billion-dollar brands at P&G, Bristol-Myers Squibb, and more. What inspired you to transition into executive coaching?
Well, thank you for asking. A lot of it came down to the old adage, it's lonely at the top.
Yeah.
That's really true. And I had experienced it myself. And at that level, Ashutosh, who are you going to turn to? You can't go up to the board. You can't go down to your subordinates. You can't go across to your peers.
Mm.
So I really wanted to create a safe space, a confidential space where they could turn to me
Yeah.
when they wanted someone to discuss a tough situation that they couldn't talk about at work, or to just help them be more fulfilled and express their full
Mm.
potential. And
Mm.
it's really what I would have loved to have when I was an exec.
Mm.
And so, yeah, most leaders that I ask, Ashutosh, what percentage of your full potential are you expressing? And the
Mm.
answer is often quite low. So I want to change
Amazing.
that.
Amazing. Amazing. And your work spans multiple industries in global markets. I'd love to get your perspective on how do leadership challenges differ across cultures, and how do you adapt your coaching to suit their needs?
Well, I have had the honor of coaching over 60 nationalities across 6 continents, and that's given
Wow.
me a really interesting armchair view of leadership from all sorts of different cultures, all
Yeah.
sorts of different countries. Here's what I've found, Ashutosh. The what of leadership doesn't change much.
Mm.
What do leaders want? They want to build the business, they want to build people.
Mm.
It's really pretty simple, right? If you
Mm.
think about the ultimate leadership piece.
Mm.
They have similar challenges, similar opportunities, similar desires, similar visions.
Mm.
Where the difference comes in is the how. The how is what changes according to
Right.
culture,
Mm.
location, that type of thing. So it's my job as a coach to help leaders achieve what they want to achieve,
Mm.
keeping in mind their culturally adaptable and acceptable how. What
Mm.
is their how?
Mm.
And work within those, not constraints, within that parameter to
Mm.
achieve what they want, the what.
Mm. Mm. Wow, what a great response. You've also been recognized by global gurus, Thinkers 50 and Coaching.com as a top executive coach and branding expert. What do you believe sets you apart in this whole field?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. It's never one thing, is it? I did have Fortune 100 experience. I have that running global billion-dollar businesses. You mentioned that.
Yeah.
I have a Harvard MBA, so I
Mm.
understand business at the highest levels of
Yeah.
major multinationals. And I've worked most of my career outside of my native US.
Mm.
I've lived in Western Eastern Europe, all over Asia, and again, have worked across so many continents. So that
Mm.
very international global experience has
Mm.
helped a lot. And I think it allows me to not just ask powerful questions,
Mhm.
Ashutosh, which is very important, don't get me wrong, but also when necessary, when desired, to
Mm.
advise as
Yeah.
well. So it's this combination of advising and coaching.
Mm.
Whenever I see a pattern or something that might be helpful based on my own business experience or the extensive coaching experience that I have coaching at the
Mm.
C-suite levels, it's almost always a blend of this coaching and advising, leveraging my background as well as my experience in
Mm.
coaching.
Mm. Well said. Let's now talk about your current area of interest and expertise, which is coaching C-suite executives. Um, how has the role of a CEO evolved in the past decade or so? And what new leadership skills are becoming essential for success?
Oh boy. My answer is almost how much time do you have?
Yes.
There's a lot that has
Yes.
changed,
Yeah.
right? 10 years ago, CEOs were profit maximizers.
Mm.
Now they're like multi-stakeholder leaders,
Mm.
right? You used to be able to just focus on financial performance. Well, today it's
Mm.
far more
Mm.
than that. You've got
Mm.
to manage profitability with the interests of employees, customers, regulators, communities,
Mm.
ESG, AI,
Yeah.
all these priorities are really key and changing.
Mm.
Another one is CEOs today, Ashutosh, I feel they're facing much higher scrutiny,
Mm.
much higher scrutiny.
Yeah.
So there's increased accountability
Mm.
and this, what's the level of transparency, right? From regulators to investors to the public, social
Mm.
media.
Mm.
Everyone has a voice now about the CEO.
Yeah.
Activist investors,
Mm.
it can really blow up or exaggerate any kind of corporate missteps that took
Mm.
place. And
Mm.
so reputation management, crisis response is really key.
Mm.
And then another one is just, I mean, it's a pervasive, right? Pervasive is digital and AI driven leadership.
Mm.
How do you manage all this technology fluency that's so
Right.
key for CEOs? So that's really important. Cyber risks, cybersecurity risk,
Mm.
that's become a really big deal as well.
Absolutely.
And then another one that's really becoming more prominent right now is political
Mm.
and geopolitical complexity.
Mm.
CEOs now have all these things to deal with: trade wars, tariff issues,
Yeah.
sanctions, supply chain
Mm.
disruption, global geopolitical conflicts.
Mm.
All of that's impacting how they can deliver products, how they can operate. So that's a really big one too.
Mm.
And in the midst of all that, Ashutosh, they're leading in a hybrid world, right? I
Yes.
mean, let's just throw a little extra, oil on the
Correct.
fire, right?
Correct.
So the pandemic changed all that. So how do you culture build across, diverse employees that are
Mm.
dispersed all around the world? So that's another
Absolutely.
one. And I'll just say one more
Yeah.
thing. CEOs, this has been compounded. Why? Because there's much shorter tenures now than there
Mm.
used to be.
Mm.
CEO tenures used to be around 10, 11, 12 years, just 10 years ago. It's now like 6 or 7. So there's
Mm.
this high pressure to move quickly, get results fast. Boards are demanding this, Wall Street's demanding this. And boy, you've got to be adaptable, you've got to be resilient, and the job has gotten even tougher, is what
Mm.
I would say.
Absolutely. And what a great response. You've covered so much ground in such a short answer, and every one of them is so valid. And, you were so right when you said that we could probably discuss this for several hours.
We
But
could.
my next question is that based on the work you do with so many leaders, what are some common misconceptions you have seen that executives have about leadership when they reach the C-suite?
Well, first of all, and it's so funny because many C-suite leaders have planned for this for a decade.
Forever. Mm.
I want to be there. That's where I want to be there. And they've worked on their leadership and they've worked on, their capabilities, and they've done everything they think they need to get there. And then they get
Mm.
there
Mm.
and they didn't realize how hard it was going to be, no
Yeah.
matter how much they've planned for it. And many have planned again for decades. But my most common response to how's it going is, I wasn't ready for this.
Mm.
There's just so much that has to go. So
Yeah.
first of all, again, we could talk for another hour about this, but you move from leading a function or an individual BU to leading an enterprise.
Mm.
And that's a very different mindset. It just
Mm.
takes a different skill set. The other thing, you're doing this in the midst of so much ambiguity, right? I mean, it's dealing with so much gray. I always say the higher you go, the
Mm.
grayer it gets. If it was a black and white decision, it would be managed lower in the
Yeah.
organization. Those decisions at the top are
Mm.
all gray,
Mm.
various shades of gray. So that's a challenge.
Correct.
And then the other thing that a lot of leaders did not anticipate when they get to the C-suite is just the incredible level of visibility. The old adage, right? A CEO sneezes and the entire organization catches a cold.
Absolutely.
It's
Yes.
true. And they are living in a fishbowl. And
Mm.
it's really hard for a lot of leaders to manage that. And I will say, particularly leaders who tend to be more introverted, it's quite a challenge to step up to that
Correct.
constantly. Everyone knows what you're doing at any minute, and you don't have that free space. So you have to learn
Absolutely.
to make that
Mm.
free space.
Mm. There's another aspect of CEOs, and I've talked to many of them, who experience an imposter syndrome
Hmm.
in spite of their success. How do you help them overcome their own self-doubt and build confidence?
Well, first of all, it's a very astute question. So I'm glad you asked that because it is surprising the number. No, it's not surprising to me, but it's surprising to others the
Yeah,
number of people who have imposter syndrome at the
correct.
highest levels of
Correct.
organizations. One thing I want to make really clear, self-doubt is normal.
Yeah,
It happens every once in a while.
absolutely.
But imposter syndrome, that's
Mm,
this persistent inability to believe that your
mm,
success is deserved or you're going to be caught as a fraud or that type of thing. That that kind of thing is more pervasive. It's
mm,
ongoing. It's more persistent. It's like an underlying hum in the bottom of the mind,
mm, mm,
right? And there's often four things. This is very important. There's often four things that drive that imposter syndrome.
mhm,
They believe they got the job through luck,
mhm,
overwork. Like if you just work hard enough, it'll be okay. Like I can overcome this.
mm,
Some kind of a relationship. Well, I got this because I knew so and so,
mm,
or
mm,
it was a mistake. You know,
mm,
they've made a mistake and I'm in this job and I'm a fraud.
mm,
So it really is a very important part of being a C-suite leader. No one at the C-suite's ever really figured it all out, right? So
mm,
you have to kind of help them understand that.
correct.
And often the higher the post, the higher the level of imposter syndrome.
Mm,
So look, this is an important topic for me. So I have a 13 question questionnaire that I actually ask C-suite yes or no, yes or no, yes or no.
mm,
Allows them to kind of I won't say diagnose because it's not a mental illness. It's simply based on
yeah,
self-limiting beliefs. That's
absolutely.
really important. So I help them understand those self-limiting beliefs that are really the foundation of this imposter syndrome. And honestly, I don't like to go backwards in time necessarily with coaching because it's all about where you are today, where you want to be in the future.
Mm,
But often imposter syndrome is grounded in childhood.
mm,
Something happened
amazing.
that caused a certain belief to be kind of hardwired, and
Mm,
that just keeps getting that belief's just like a paved highway.
yeah,
It's like it's strong, and it's hard to break that apart.
amazing.
So, I just was coaching someone yesterday with
Mm,
imposter syndrome, and the outcome was, look, there's a need for control. If I could just work harder, I can control things. Why? Because that person's parent died when they were 9 years old. You know, things like that. I mean, just sometimes you have to go back to understand.
correct.
And then once you understand what's causing that,
Mm,
then you look at, okay, let's look at the triggers in the moment as you're going through your day to day.
mm,
What do you notice about those triggers? Ah, I see. I feel a strong need to be prepared for all
mm,
meetings. Okay, what's that about? Ah, I want to try to control it. So you just have to, it's just slowly, it's like peeling back the layers of an onion. And
mhm.
eventually, I really do believe you can get over imposter syndrome.
Yeah, yeah,
Self-doubt, you can always have some of that,
yeah.
but I really do believe you can get over it and
Fascinating.
it makes life completely different
Mm,
once you do.
great response. And what are some of the most powerful leadership habits you have seen in highly effective C-suite executives?
The habits.
Habits, yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that I encourage is what I call mini me meetings.
Mm-hmm.
In these go, 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 go world that they live in. And trust me, you know this. I mean, every minute of your day is completely full. Okay. It's from
Mm-hmm.
the morning you get up till the time you go to bed. It's just pack,
Mm-hmm.
pack, 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 pack.
Mm-hmm.
So we work with them. I work with them to get the many me meetings. What does that mean? They're going to take 5 minutes before a meeting and 5 minutes after a meeting. Just
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just 300 seconds. It's
Mm-hmm.
not much. And they're going to take time to center themselves. And they're going to ask themselves questions like, what's the objective of this meeting I'm going into?
Mm-hmm.
What do I want to get out of it?
Yeah.
Why am I in this meeting? And what does success look like at the end? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so you're going with an objective and you can center yourself a little bit, right? Then after the meeting is over, you take those additional 2.5 minutes to say, did I achieve what I wanted? What was the outcome?
Mm-hmm.
Am I satisfied? Are there any next steps that people need to be aware of?
Mm-hmm.
And then you dictate to your, assistant or whatever a message to say, this is the follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
That next 2.5 minutes, the last 2.5 minutes, you do the same thing as you were doing before. What do I want to get out of this meeting that I'm going into now? What does success look like? How will I measure that success?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one that just a simple little thing that's changed a lot of CEOs'
Mm-hmm.
lives because it's just such a simple, fundamental thing. And they work with their assistants too to build in those 5-minute intervals.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's another one that I use called the 4Ds model, the 4
Mm-hmm.
Ds, like the
Mm-hmm.
letter D. And
Yeah.
why? As we just said, C-suite leadership, their time is one of the most precious assets there are, their time and their talent, right? So how are they using that time? And so I give them 4 Ds to think about. First D is delete.
Mm-hmm.
When something comes in, there's something that's coming onto your plate or you're being asked to do, you have to pause and say, is this going to move the needle? Is this strategically the correct thing to do for the organization?
Mm.
Is it the right use of time, talent, etc.?
Mm.
Delete is the first one because often we put things on our plate that just don't need to be there.
Yeah.
And I have helped just by doing that delete. I've helped a lot of executives actually clean up their slates in a very short period of time. You can delete a lot more than we think. The second one is do. So you decide, no, we're not going to delete it. We're going to do it. So who's going to do it? Is it me? Like, what is it that I should only do? I love asking this of CEOs. What is it that only the CEO of this organization should do? And it's a great question because you start going, well, I do. Oh, yeah, no, I shouldn't do that. Well, I do. Oh, no, I shouldn't do that either. Right. So you start to cull that list down of what do I really need to do? And then if it's not going to be me, who am I going to delegate it to? That's the third D, which is delegate. And I take them through a whole model for how to delegate effectively at the C-suite. And then the last one is delay. That's a very dangerous one too, Ashutosh, because I'll just put it off. We'll do it in 6 months' time, or we'll do it in 3 months' time. And I always say, keep that delay list. But here's the problem. That delay list is in the back of your mind. Whether it's taking up physical space on a piece of paper, it doesn't matter. It's using your mind space. Oh, yeah, I've delayed that. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. It's still here. And so delay, I say, if something stays on a delay list for 3 months or more, it goes back up to the top and we delete it.
Yeah.
And then the third thing I would say, just ask. You are not the leader. You are not the leader of telling. It's not about telling. It's about asking.
Amazing. I love for your 4 Ds, and I'm sure my viewers and listeners will remember your 4 Ds very well as they listen to this conversation. My next question is that, you were talking about how the world has changed so much and there's so much pressure on so many of the leaders. How do you help executives or C-suite executives foster a culture of innovation in an ever-changing business landscape?
Well, change is the operative word, isn't it? I think it starts with recognizing how important it is.
Yeah.
It's not an option today. It's not optional. It is the way we're operating. So that, all this change that is happening is not temporary either. It's the new norm. So when you start to shift your mindset around that, that's fine. I'll give you an example. I had a CEO who was and this happens a lot, so frustrated because he said, every single day, my world is getting disrupted. Something new comes up, I want to innovate, but I don't have time because we're so busy doing this. And I always just say, what percentage of the time is your day completely going off the rails? He said, like 50%. I said, then plan for it. Just plan for it. It's 50% of your day is going to be off rail. You can see disappointment comes from when expectation doesn't match reality.
Yeah.
So you can manage all three of those: disappointment, expectation, and reality. So expect that you're going to be disrupted by 50%. If it doesn't happen, great. You get an extra 10% of your day back. So you have to recognize that change really is not temporary. It's build it into the modus operandi, not just of your own life, but of the organization as a whole. And as humans, Ashutosh, I really do believe we'll do something if we know it's better for us. We'll do it. So you just have to demonstrate why it's important to have that agility and that innovation. What's the role that it's going to play in your future?
Well said. And what role does executive coaching play to foster ethical leadership and corporate social responsibility and ESG? There's so many alphabets now. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, at the top of the organization, it's very rare that leaders get honest feedback.
Correct.
So when it comes to things like authenticity, are we being real? Are we following up on what we promised, right? It's really important to have someone on the outside help be that accountability partner. Often what happens at the highest ends, they're not getting honest feedback. They're getting filtered
Yeah.
feedback. So that's one of the things, is to help them really stay focused. Another one is to just help them with ethical decision making. You know, sometimes those are tough things to talk about with people in your workspace, the people that your peers or your board, or it's hard to actually have open, honest conversations about that. And having an external voice to bounce back and forth things that's completely confidential can be really, really helpful. And then, you know, so there's that part. And I think the other thing is around embedding CSR, not just as a movement, but as a business strategy. It's not about just compliance-driven efforts, right? It's about helping leaders integrate social responsibility into the goals, into the sustainability, the long-term impacts. I think that all of that's really important as well.
Well said. And as a leadership branding expert, how do you help executives create an authentic and impactful presence?
Well, presence starts on the inside. You know, a lot of people think that executive presence is about how you stand during a press conference, or whether you project loud enough, or whether you articulate well enough, right? But that's not it. Executive presence starts first and foremost on the inside.
Yeah.
It starts with your beliefs about yourself, about how you feel about being up in front of a crowd, needing to do what you need to do. So it's super important that we start paying attention to the inner work, the thoughts, the feelings. That's where all of it comes from in the first place. So it all starts as what I call the inside job.
Yeah.
And once you can tackle that inside and really understand it, you will make positive, long-lasting behavioral changes that will actually be best for you and for the organization as a whole.
Well said. So one more question relating to coaching, and then I've got a couple of questions for your books. What's the one piece of leadership advice that you consistently find yourself giving to top executives?
I have to choose just one. It's tough. I guess I would say focus on what you can control, not what you cannot control.
Right.
There's just so much going on outside. And if you focus there, you will drive yourself crazy, literally, because you can't control any of that. You have to focus on what you can control. What can you control? How you act, how you react, how you look, how you sound, how you think. You can control those things, and just also do the inner work, because it all starts there, right? When the world is in a constant state of disruption, the answer is to do the inner work, because it's what you can control. So I always say to leaders, the more you can embrace personal development, them as an individual, the better off the company will be.
Wow. So let's now talk about your books. I have a couple of questions for you on that. Brenda, your books emphasize leadership branding, and the whole world's now talking of personal branding. How does an executive's personal brand impact their ability to lead effectively?
Right. So when I set my business up, I wanted to look at leadership and branding and how the two work together. And back then, really only Tom Peters was talking about that, and he was doing personal branding. So I really wanted to talk about leadership and branding and how that intersection works together. So what is the way I define branding, personal branding, leadership branding? It's the way you want people to perceive, think, and feel about you. Now, all three of those are really important, but you want to understand what your brand is now, what your desired brand is, and what your brand is as others see it. So that brand, how do you see your brand now? What would you like it to be? And then how do others see it? So it's this constant balance between those three. What I think, what desire is, and what others see. It's that constant balance between those three. And once they can start to really connect all three of those, that's when you build a really strong leadership brand. Those three bond together, and you are very consistent. Branding is all about consistency. It's no different than McDonald's. You walk into a McDonald's all around the world, you're going to find similar things in every one of them, right? It's the same thing. And this allows leaders to do what I think is one of the most important things they can do, which is strike a balance between being respected and being liked. Those two are really key. And how well you manage your brand allows you to manage that.
And my last question for you, and this is going to be a little difficult question, because I know I've written many books and very often I'm asked to choose, But I'm going to ask you the same question. If a C-suite executive could only read one of your books, which one would you recommend and why?
It's a little bit, I don't know if you remember the movie called Sophie's Choice, where you had to make some really tough choices. I feel tough choices, right? They're like
Yeah.
children, right? How
Yeah,
do you choose?
absolutely. That's why I prefaced it by saying it's different.
Exactly. Look, of my current books, I have one called Would You Want to Work for You? And it's a question that I love to ask senior leaders. Would you want to work for you? Like I helps them to really get clear on how they're perceived in the workplace. Most leaders don't really understand how they're perceived in the workplace. And this book provides the top 15 common errors I see senior leaders making when it comes to leading others. And how do you, what you can do about that. Now, I have 2 more books coming out, the Ultimate C-Suite Leadership Playbook. So that's all about C-suite leadership at the very highest levels of big corporations. I'm really looking forward to getting those out. They'll come out soon.
Absolutely. And once those books are out, maybe we'll have a more detailed discussion on your new books that are coming out. But on that note, Brenda, and your advice which I'm going to ask all our viewers and listeners to check out, your book, Would You Want to Work for You? Very powerful title. Thank you for speaking to me about your own journey. I think we covered some amazing ground on coaching, the evolution of the way the CEO roles have evolved. We spoke about some of the misconceptions a lot of exec people have. We covered in some depth imposter syndrome. We also talked about ethical leadership, a culture of innovation, and of course, your amazing advice. Thank you again for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website, www.tbcy.in, to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for The Brand Called You.